I'm Joan Gray, and I am a Presbyterian pastor, have been since 1976. I've been pastoring regularly since then, preaching most Sundays. And now I'm serving as interim Dean of Students here at Columbia Seminary in Decatur, Georgia. I had the privilege of serving as the co-interim pastor of the Peachtree City First Presbyterian Church at a time when they were splitting as a congregation. And the split was really over biblical interpretation, especially around issues of sexuality. And so the more conservative group left and started their own church. And the ones that were left were more progressive, and they really began to get a sense of mission that they were there to be a welcoming and affirming presence in that community and a safe place for people of all kinds to come and worship. Many of them had friends, neighbors, children, grandchildren, nieces, nephews, co-workers who were gay or lesbian, and the rhetoric of the group that left was extremely virulently anti all of that. And these folks suffered under that. We really had to build a church from scratch. It was like a new church development, except the people were there and they were on fire. There were two of us, one of my colleagues, Stephen Colderup, and I. Stephen and I worked as a team, and he managed what I would call the administrative end of things. My job was to work with getting a session in place, training them, and doing the preaching. I was the preacher. We both led worship. If somebody died, there would be a funeral. If a baby needed to be baptized, there would be water in the font. It was that kind of thing. We also had to build a staff. We were left with one administrative assistant. All the music people left. The organist stayed, but he left 2 weeks later. Lay people stepped in and made sure that worship happened in terms of the music and everything. And then about a month after Stephen and I got there, one of the members said, the music director at the Methodist church used to be ours, and he left because that was a full-time job. But I hear he's interested in coming back. And sure enough, he was, and he was the hottest ticket in town. But he had a gay son. And he and his wife came, and the first Sunday that he led the music, I went up to him to thank him, and he started to cry. And he said, "I'm thankful for this congregation welcoming us. We feel safe here." I think if you talk to most thoughtful Presbyterians, they would tell you that they disagree with some of the denomination's decisions. What I can tell you about is my own wrestling with Scripture around how the Bible talks about sexuality. I don't think in issue terms. I tend to think in people terms. And for me, the church is not issues, it's people. And so my heart goes with the people. I know gay and lesbian Christians who are better Christians than I will ever be, and better ministers than I will ever be. I think Presbyterians went off the track a while back when we decided that unity is about agreement. I don't think that's true. I don't think it's biblical. Unity in the church is not about what we agree on, but about who we worship. And one thing that I see us shirking is substantive discourse about the God that we are really worshiping and who that God is. When I was a candidate for moderator, I went around and talked to a lot of people on all sides of all issues. And out of curiosity, I asked them a question. I asked everybody this question. It was, can you in your wildest imagination, conceive that God might possibly lead you to a different opinion on the sexuality issue than you currently have? And most of them said no. And I think our God is too small. If we cannot, in our wildest imagination, think that God might possibly lead us somewhere beyond where we are. This is the stuff that when I was a candidate for moderator was tearing my guts out. I wanted to have integrity with Scripture and integrity with the people that I loved, that I love. And trying to find a way to find a place to stand in the midst of that tension was so painful. And I guess that's one thing being moderator did for me. It forced me to be real with these things. And it's still somewhat painful, but I've found a way to embrace that and to say, this is who I am, and have found that people will receive that. Learning history, learning where we came from, learning our roots. And I hear this from my African American colleagues here at the seminary, how important it is to know where you came from, to know who your people are, and the events that shaped who you are. That's so important as a guide going forward. But the other thing about history is to realize that what we do today means something. It's important. The decisions that we make are going to be impacting people years after we're dead. I don't think people get that sometimes. We are making history for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren. And what could be more important than that?